go ahead and turn on our caller, 248. You are on the air. Who do we have?
Hi.
Hi. How are you today?
Good afternoon. How do you be?
Hi, Jeanie. Hello, Dr. Michael.
Good to say hello.
Yeah, I know it is.
And I'm delighted that we're going to get to do this new worksheet.
Yeah, I'm just now looking at it.
Yeah, actually, when we talked earlier, you inspired me to spend some time with it, and we've made a couple of changes to simplify it and make it a little more comprehensive. It'll be exciting to step through it and see how it feels for you.
Oh my. Okay. Yeah.
You'll notice that there are less words on the page and a less complicated looking page. Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think we're going to see it move a little differently than the last worksheet that we did. So if we go to, the premise is the same. If you look up at the very top, we're talking about reality management, and we've defined a little differently. We're clarifying our definitions. Reality is a construct of my mind, my unique perception, or my world, on the left-hand side at the top, and then on the right, forgiveness, a tool for waking up from and changing my reality. And then the premise, my essential nature, my human life, my very being is love. Hold a newborn if you ever forget it is the idea of the piece in the brackets. And then the goal of this internal forgiveness wake-up sheet is to empower me to remove fear and or hostility and return to the direct experience of love 24/7, 365. And so the first step, and seeing as how you weren't able to print it off, Jeanie is going to write it out, fill in the blanks for you, and then she'll just attach it to an email so you'll have a copy of it when we're complete. So 1A, of course, is where I put my own name in. So if I were doing this worksheet, it'd be I, Michael, who am love. So you want to start every time that you do the forgiveness process with the confirmation of and the clarity on who I am, and then what I'm experiencing. So I, Michael, who am love, am experiencing, and identify your emotions. So what emotions are moving for you around the situation that's going on in your world?
Fear and anger. Yeah, dread, fear, grief, fear, and anger.
Dread, grief, fear, and anger. So you'll note in brackets behind 1B where you mark what the emotion is, use a separate worksheet for each emotion. So which one would probably be the most productive one for you to do right now? Do you want to do one on the dread aspect of it? Do you want to do one on the fear? Which one would you like to tackle first?
Yeah, fear probably.
Okay. Oftentimes, I suggest to people that you look at the anger aspect because, well, people imagine and think that love is an emotion. The truth is it's really an anesthetic. It's a way to not feel fully what's going on under the surface. So that might be another option, whichever one you want to.
What is an? You said love is an anesthetic?
No, I'm saying anger is an anesthetic.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I'm having fear about my little girl's life. She's really going through a lot right now. She won't go to school. She's in bed constantly. It sounds like she's very depressed. And I'm 1,000 miles away, and her mother won't get her to a counselor. And I'm having anger about that. Yeah, so I guess the anger is a real thing too.
Okay, so then my suggestion would be, let's see if we can get the anesthetic out of the way, and that will tend to open a space for being more conscious. So let's do it on anger, and then remember that my offering would be to start out by recognizing that your anger isn't about what's going on with your daughter. It's about the fact that there's anger in you, and it's that anger, when it moves in us, that tends to cut us off from, number one, the underlying dynamics that are going on inside of us and cut us off from the presence of love.
Well, actually, Dr. Michael, what's really present for me is grief and fear and worry about my daughter.
I hear
the
you.
anger the anger is down the road. It's not. It's yeah. My ex is doing her same old shit, and it's nothing new. She's paranoid, and she won't get any help for our daughter because she doesn't want medical records out in the world that people will see that our daughter had a problem one time. And I said to her, well, how's it gonna be for you if she commits suicide because she's in depression and you didn't get her any help? So that's it's really front and center for me is my fear and my dread.
Yeah, fear sounds like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wakes me up at night.
I hear you. So
you
then
tell me what it looks like.
Well, it sounds like the most prevalent thing is that fear and the extreme of fear being dread. So they'd kind of, I think, be one and the same.
Yeah.
So recognizing, just kind of a preliminary thought, recognizing that you're 1,000 miles away and mechanically, on a practical level, it sounds like intervention on your part is not a possibility. Is that accurate?
So far, that appears to be the case. But my ex won't listen to take any of my advice, and now our daughter is going to be flying to see me in about 2.5 weeks. So I will have her here with me for about 5 or 6 days, but that's not much. You can't get much accomplished then. So,
well, actually,
right. I can't step in there and
no.
take her to court or something like that, which is what I would do if I was up there.
Right. So, were you by any chance on the show yesterday?
Pardon me?
I say, were you by chance on the show yesterday?
No, I'm sorry, I was not.
Okay. Well, I read a letter that we got from a gentleman who has what they call been diagnosed medically with complex PTSD. And he has been in treatment for this complex PTSD for years. And his letter was a request for permission to introduce the forgiveness worksheet process and the codependence work that we do to the expert MD whose specialty is complex PTSD and trauma. Through years of treatment, he's been working with the worksheet, with the forgiveness process, and the codependence work we do for 6 weeks. And he says his complex PTSD, even when he's exposed to triggers, is totally and completely gone. So I'd open up the space with you to recognize that in 6 days, having your daughter there directly, there's a good possibility you can help her to work miracles.
Okay.
And change what's going on for her. Would you be open to that possibility?
Yes, sure.
Cool. Okay, and how long is it before she comes?
Before
she visits you?
Yeah, she flies in on the 18th. She'll be here the 19th.
So today's first, so a little bit, about 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Awesome. So then my next question would be, recognizing that all of these emotional responses in yourself, the fear, the dread, are energetic patterns that you've experienced previously in situations with your former wife. Would that be accurate?
I don't know that I had dread before this.
So it's come to a new level of fear?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm hearing that our daughter may have attempted suicide before and may be into self-harm.
That's pretty intense. So my question would be, before we proceed with the worksheet, on an energetic level, is it reasonable for you to think that there's an unconscious energetic communication between you and your daughter? Like, do you feel a connection with her? Do you feel like there's any kind of energy exchange with her, even though she's that far away?
I did, but now she won't return my phone calls, and she won't return my text messages. So I don't know. I don't know.
But even if you're not ear to ear on something,
there used to be, but ever since I left, I think that she's very angry about that, about my leaving.
Okay.
I had to leave for health reasons, and whatever reason, it was not easy for her no matter what.
Right. Well, here's my input, and I've got a purpose for bringing this topic forward before we step into the worksheet. Back about 35 years ago, I used to keynote at a conference called Global Science. And one year when I was doing a keynote address, a gentleman named Marcel Vogel came to the conference. And Marcel was a 23-year senior scientist from IBM. In his presentation, he brought what's called a Delaware camera. And with that camera, what he showed is that he could actually take a picture of the literal high energy waves that leave the mind when we think a thought. When energetic patterns are moving in us, it sets up a literal, measurable energy field. Does that make sense to you?
I hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So my offering would be is that there is full and instant communication between you and your daughter and you and everyone else in your world continuously, as it is for each of us. We aren't brought up in a culture that gives us permission to or the understanding of that happening, so it tends to be unconscious communication, but the communication's there.
Okay.
Would that make sense? So again, before we step into the worksheet, so then what do you suppose, if you're sitting there 1,000 miles from where your daughter's located, which communication, which energy field would you suppose would be most beneficial to your daughter in the state that she's in? One where you're in dread and fear and anger, or one where you're in a connected, centered place in your heart, taking care of your own physiology and extending that energy of love toward her?
Oh, I think the love thing for sure. Yeah. Yeah, okay. I use a picture. I'm looking at a picture of her on the wall right now, and I use that picture often to get me into my heart center. Just looking at her when she was about 2 or 3.
Yeah, I understand. So I join you in being in that heart-centered space as we do this worksheet, and my invitation would be to take responsibility for the energetic patterns that might not be supportive of your physiology, nor very supportive of her on an unconscious level, by taking responsibility and removing those. You know, the whole forgiveness process is about the removal of what never belonged in us as human beings in the first place. So I just say that by way of...
I guess my question, Michael, is I love her so much. I'm afraid for her, doing something rash and bad to herself.
I hear you.
That's if I didn't love her, I wouldn't have that feeling. That worry.
Okay. So if you're sending a measurable high energy wave, and my offering is, my background's in physics, and what I know is that an energy wave moves through anything and everything until it hits a frequency that matches it. Like a radio wave will travel hundreds, in some cases thousands of miles. There's nothing we know of in the physical world that can stop the high energy wave that leaves the mind when we think a thought. So my invitation is to inspire you to be willing to be so totally free of fear, of dread, of rage around this situation with your daughter, that the only energy, the only platform, so to speak, of energy that you send to her is that of the pure presence of love. And, you know, my offering would be, if there's a chance that she's going to be able to receive that, you're going to want to be as clear as you can possibly be in sending it. You know, my take, you know, this is something I've talked about over the years many times, and that is that energetically, we create energetic platforms, energetic patterns that, you know, in a metaphorical kind of way, people tend to climb up on them and react from them. And so if someone's in a situation of self-harm and self-deprecation and pain, they've climbed up on a platform, a pretty tight platform of trauma. And my offering, there's only one thing that heals trauma, and that's the active presence of love. And so, again, motivating you to be willing to own every bit of dread and fear and anger that you've got so that you can forgive it, remove it from yourself. So the only platform, the only energy you hold for her, whatever you hear from her mom, whatever you hear or don't hear from her, the only energy that you send her is that pure presence of love, that pure heart space, and you clean up everything else inside yourself in regard to your daughter.
Yeah, good. Sounds good to me.
That would be for me, that would be the purpose of this worksheet. To own every scintilla.
I've just been sitting here as we're talking and holding her in my heart in love and feeling awesome, high energy love for her and sending it consciously to her.
Yes. I'm with you.
I have used the idea of beta visualization married with heart chakra energy to create, you know, some wonderful relationship experiences with my kids,
right,
and with other people as well. So, yeah, it would be great to refine all of that and remove the dread and the fear from possibly being in the way of it. Sure.
Exactly. So the only energetic platform you send her is that of the pure presence of being, the pure presence of love. And, you know, there's a line in the worksheet that says, when I choose love, it wakes up the love in everyone. And it works, you know, again, my background's in physics. And, you know, if I've got a middle C tuning fork and I tap it on the desk, it starts to vibrate. And if I put it near a second middle C tuning fork, what happens to that second middle C tuning fork?
I guess it'll start to vibrate. I don't know much about it.
Starts to vibrate. It doesn't have any choice. That's the only thing it can do. If I put a middle A tuning fork in front of it and pound it on the desk and put it in front of that middle C, nothing happens to the middle C tuning fork. Mm-hmm. Only something with a middle A is going to vibrate. So now what we know is you have some hostility and fear and dread, and your daughter's got some too. So if you become the tuning fork of rage, of fear, of dread, then what that's going to tend to wake up or resonate in her is going to be dread and fear and trauma. When you have freed yourself of all of that, and are only that space of love, that's the best chance she's going to have of stepping up to that platform, of having the resonance of love and move in her so powerfully. And I remember meeting her. I've only seen pictures of her in recent years and videos of her, but I remember meeting her as a very, very small child. And the pure presence of love is what she is, no question about it. Our task now is to me, is to be the tuning fork of love so powerfully that that's the only thing moving in her. My offering would be in her environment, and I don't know whether it's her school environment or her home environment or her community environment, but in her environment, there's not enough of that presence of active love for that to be the predominant resonant energy in her, and something else has taken over her mind. If we can, and of course you've also got an audience here I suspect that, our friends in Sweden and Australia and different states all over the United States, Canada, are with us right now holding that space. And when that energy is stronger around her, there's nothing else that can happen but love's got to move in her. And she's going to make she's going to make actual choices from love rather than play out the past drama and trauma that she's done. And so I hear your concern. My daughter back several years ago was having some serious challenges. She had a friend that was her boyfriend that committed suicide, and she was having some very, very difficult times. So I identify with you, and as you talk about this, it brings up a little bit of that for me right now. Yeah. So I'm here to forgive that in me as well, so that I, as a father, with you as a father, can join more powerfully in being that space that can help perhaps not only assist your daughter in shifting, but every traumatized young girl in this culture, and there are millions of them, that need something different.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm breathing with you in here, doing that with me, for me, as we're doing that with you, for you, and for her. And for her mom, because her mom, in her essence, with whatever mom is carrying of her dramas and traumas, the truth about her is she started out the same as the rest of us, as active present love. And, when confusion meets confusion, there tends to be resonance, and it tends to take over. And the solution is always in interjecting with something else. And, that line, I remember way back, I was kind of assisting Mary Kupferle at Unity in Delray. I actually did a Sunday family service. And, they had a school system in Unity at Delray, and they had from kindergarten, pardon me?
Yes, the We Wisdom School, sure.
Right, We Wisdom. And from kindergarten to grade 8, we had 3 different teachers that went in. We started a course with Mary's cooperation. We started a course in the school that was called Lessons in Living. It still goes on there, I understand. And our first lesson, the first month, was when I choose love, it wakes up the love in everyone.
Wow.
So I want to kind of put that out there, as the thought of the day and the focus at this point of that whatever comes up in me, sadness, grief, rage, fear, hate, control, anger, I'm willing to let go of that so that I can be that space that empowers that choice in others.
You might remember that Dr. Wayne Dyer used to bring his kids to school there back in the day.
That was before my time with Wayne Dyer. That school was going there with I don't know whether Mary was there at that time or not. But...
Yeah. Okay. Well, just
so I'm with you.
Excitement. Yeah. So I love what you're saying. It's great, Michael. Great.
So we're working on fear. So my denial. So if you would follow along with me in number 1A, my denial, and remember our definition of denial: when I think or speak as though something outside of me is a cause of something moving inside of me, I have to hide from myself what's moving inside of me, which means I'm no longer able to change it. So when I think in terms of, what I'd be doing is suing my former, and it's her problem, and that's what's going on in the world, that's what's causing me to be fearful, then the truth is, I've been fearful before. I've been fearful many times in my life, long before I ever met that woman, if I were you, long before I ever met her, and long before I ever met anybody. I had fear in me, but as long as I think or speak as though she's the cause of my fear, then I have to hide from myself or make unconscious the real cause of my fear. And if I make unconscious the real cause of my fear, I can't change it. And fear is going to be the real energy that I'm stuck in.
you're suggesting that the real cause of my fear is something in me.
That's it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
My carbon-based mind, I think, as you called it.
Yeah, that it's stored, literally, it's stored in tissue.
Okay.
So it's my denial that displaces my experience of myself as my essence love, and my mind tells me that my emotions are caused by my trigger. And in this case, so if you think about this fear, would the object of attention, the fear, the anger and such, would we really be talking about your daughter, or would this worksheet be more on your former?
I'm sorry, say again.
So with the focus that we've got, we've talked about two objects of attention. One of them is your daughter, and one of them is your former wife. So if you look at this fear right now, the focal point of this worksheet, would the fear be about what your former wife is or is not doing, at least in terms of what your mind's telling you, or would your fear be about what might happen to your daughter?
It could be both. It definitely is both. And what I do notice that when I talk to my other children about it, they're all in their 40s. When I talk to them about it, I always lead with, here's what my ex is. I won't say her name, but here's what my ex is doing now. She won't get her into counseling. So boom. Yeah. Okay. That would be accurate. That would be accurate.
So then the worksheet, the most important worksheet to do right now then is on your former, not on your daughter. That will be another worksheet to follow. But the one we want to be specific with now, I would offer, is around what your former is doing that may be a danger to your daughter.
Yeah, okay, good.
Okay, so then number 1C, who am I focused on would be my former, and then what's my perception? What's my story? That she's not doing enough, or she's doing the wrong things, or she won't take action?
Our child needs to get into counseling, and my former is not getting, has actually fired the counselor that my daughter loved, fired her, and does not want her in the counseling now because it would be creating medical records that would follow my daughter and her for the rest of their lives. And as I say that, I feel the anger building up in me. Yeah, good. So yeah, perfect.
Yep. Okay. So then, the reality is, the story is, my former won't take action that I think she should take.
Okay.
Would that be accurate? So that's what would go in the second part of number 1C. So the first blank, number 1C, who am I focused on, would be my former. And now you'll notice there's a set of brackets there, and you put your initials in the brackets. So you would put, whatever your initials are in that bracket, and then my former, and then she won't take the action I think she should take. That would be the situation in number 1C. And then as you think about that,
I'm looking at this now, and I see my denial displaces my experience of myself as my essence. Love in my mind tells me that my emotions are caused by my triggers.
Right.
Now, who you're focused on is my former, and the parents. My perception story that she won't do what I think she should do for our daughter.
Right.
Breathe. Now, where are the brackets you're talking? I'm sorry, I don't see
They're
brackets.
not on the new one, Michael.
I just realized there's actually, it's kind of hard for me to see here. Okay, we'll have to correct that. Anyway, before you put the name of your former in, and thank you for catching that, there should be a set of brackets. Actually, one of the brackets is backward. It's just a little mix-up, so we'll correct that. So before you put my former's name in there, you put your initials. So there's a reminder that this worksheet's really about me. This is about what's going on inside of me that I want to clean up, and it's being triggered by her.
Okay.
And it's around her not taking the action you'd like her to take. So that would be number 1C. Then D, the truth is, only my thoughts cause my emotional upset. and you want to breathe with that. So that heart space that you know how to get into, now let yourself breathe and get into that connected space, and this offer yourself the truth. It's my thoughts. And notice when you start to speak about what you've been telling your other children, up comes this anger again. And my offering would be, anger is the anesthetic for the fear you have around what the result might be of this.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, I've got someone to blame. It's not me causing her death or whatever. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So notice that the truth is the emotions that you have moving are caused by your thoughts. And as soon as you start to speak it, or you think about speaking it to one of your other children, bang, it's right there. And notice that reformer isn't even here. She's got nothing to do with that. That's totally internal.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And, you know, most of us have got a lifetime of habituating denial, thinking or speaking that out there is the cause of what's moving in here. And that's what prohibits us from changing it. We say, oh, I want to be finished with this, I want to be finished with this, but we go on thinking the same old thoughts. You remember the last worksheet we did, I talked about David Bohm and sustained incoherence. And David Bohm's definition, David Bohm was a physicist who also worked in the arena of psychology, and he coined this term, sustained incoherence. And basically, his definition of that is that I refuse to own that it's my thinking that's causing this problem, and I keep thinking that way. So now I'm stuck in sustained incoherence, and this worksheet is about correcting that state within us. And the more you can connect and realize that, oh, it's my thinking that's causing these emotions and not what's happening out there, the more deeply you can move into your own mind and remove those thought disorders that create emotional trauma and keep you from taking the highest kind of action that you can take. So just holding the space and breathing as you connect to that heart space. The truth is only my thoughts cause my emotional upset. And just breathe into that one and be with that for a minute. And then the second part of number 1D, the thoughts, and once again, you use a separate wake-up sheet for each thought, which cause my emotion. So in this case, it's fear. I think the one we finally settled on was fear. The thought that causes... Go ahead.
I think it was dread.
Dread, okay. So the extreme form of fear being dread. So in order to really feel that level of dread that you're talking about, what's the thought you think?
My daughter killing herself. My daughter killing herself.
Yeah. Wow, that's big. So then notice that as soon as you, and you gave us a perfect example, it's such a powerful thing to be aware of. Notice that when you start talking about your other children about this, and your wife not taking action, and that thought that your daughter might kill herself starts to move, that's when you go into that anger and rage and that dread.
Okay.
And that's the anesthetic to keep you from feeling your own thought disorders.
Yeah.
And if we can't feel them, if we can't feel the effect of our thought disorders, we can't be aware of the thoughts, and we can't correct the thoughts. And the objective here is to become fully aware of and correct whatever my thought disorders are. Does that fit and make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So then you want to fill in the thought that is at the root of this whole emotional complex. And again, it's not a simple one we're doing. There's a pretty deep emotional complex going on here. The thought is that my daughter might kill herself.
And this is not, we're looking at D here. The truth is only my thoughts cause my... Okay. Okay.
Right. So the reason why when John's contemplating what his daughter's doing, he can't, being 1,000 miles away, stay connected to love is because he has this fear-based thought that arouses dread and anger in him. And if he gets rid of that thought, then he's going to be better able to stay centered. You know, there's nothing else I can do in the external world at this moment, but if I can stay centered in the active presence of love, I can literally send an energy that will help both my former wife and my daughter. But I can't do it if I can't own this thought and start to change it.
Yeah. Yep. Good.
Okay. Nice. And then the next step is, what's your punishment? What is it that you want to do to your former?
Oh, boy. There's a range
of
ideas that have come through my mind on this one.
Right.
If my daughter dies, I have thoughts like I won't go to the funeral. I won't go anywhere near my ex. I've thought about, I'd love to punch her in the face. I would love to be able to sue her for custody. That's another one. Maybe talking my daughter into staying down here with me is another one that's come to mind, and not sending her back. Because she'll be safer with me, is my thought. So yeah, a bunch of range from physical to yeah.
So let's look at the first couple of things that you said, and let's tie this into power person dynamics. Remember, we talked in the last worksheet about how under stress, and stress is caused by beholding goals that aren't being accomplished. Under high levels of stress, my mind will default and advise me or force me to do whatever my power person did to me that I hated the most. Did your power person ever hit you?
Yes.
Did your power person ever abandon you? Notice they were the first two things that came up. Notice you wanted to lash out, and then what you said is, and I won't even go to my own daughter's funeral.
Well, I actually yelled at her yesterday, so yelling was the first thing. I didn't think of yelling as a punishment. But on the phone yesterday, I yelled at her, so that was yelling, and my power person yelled. Did yell.
Was it punishment when your power person did it to you?
I'm trying to think back.
It was flat out abuse, right?
Pardon me?
It was flat out abuse, right?
Let me remember. Remember him hitting me, spanking me, hitting me without me seeing it coming. Yeah.
So he just blindsided you.
That was the time when he abandoned me and yelled at the same time. Boom. Yes. He abandoned me and yelled at me at the same time. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
So notice they're the first things your mind prompts you to do.
Sorry?
Notice that they're the first things that your mind prompts you to do when you're under extreme stress.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And notice that.
Yeah, hitting her is way down the road.
but
Abandoning
that
her.
was the first word you used.
Pardon me?
Yeah. That was the first word that came out of your mouth, was to hit.
No.
So notice that when your power person did it to you, it was really clear it was abuse and inappropriate. But notice that when you do it, you think it's appropriate and helpful, and your mind tells you a whole different story about it. And the story. Go ahead.
I don't know that it would. I think it would be appropriate. I think it would be vengeance. I don't think it would be appropriate or helpful to hit her. I think it would get me arrested. I mean, that's the last thing I wanted to get arrested. So that's why I say I don't even want to see her. Is the thought I have. I would never want to see her again because of my fear being that I would hurt her.
Yeah. Yep. And what did your power person do to you? Whole lot hurt, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So notice that, and this is just a point for everybody to understand, is that when we're in that power person dynamic, and again, it's usually a parent with a child and we're small, and we think it's survival and the power person isn't functioning as love, our energy field opens up and we just become like a sponge and suck in whatever's in that environment. And then 10, 20, 50, or 70 years later, when we're in stress, what happens unconsciously is we turn inside. Our power person was our God. We turn inside and say to ourselves, this is kind of, metaphorically, we say, okay, mind, what did God do when God needed to win over me and the situation was really dire? Oh, God hurt me, God hit me, God abandoned me, my God, my power person yelled at me. So I take that advice and I do exactly what I hated most. And that's running the world. And you know what, John? Pardon me. That's not.
That's fine. Whatever.
My apology.
Well, you've done it.
That's
You've
not.
You've done it. It's fine. No, don't worry.
Okay, Jack. Okay, I got it. But the thing to notice is that you're not the only one doing that.
Yeah.
She's doing that too.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever watched the movie The War of the Roses, that's exactly what you see happening there. And that's what virtually everybody does. That was a tough movie. Yes. And that's what virtually everybody does when they're under extreme stress, is they turn to that power person and they do whatever they hated the most. And that's what creates war in relationships between people who are attracted to each other and cherish each other and say they've fallen in love. And all that means is they've opened their unconscious dynamics to each other, and they're going to give each other, through their matching bags of garbage, an opportunity to learn forgiveness. And if we don't learn forgiveness, then it's going to go on and on and on, day after day, week after week, month after month, decade after decade, miles apart or together. And my offering would be, here she is, giving you the gift to look at these dynamics inside yourself. And at the same time, if we were talking to her and doing a worksheet, I guarantee that everything, like the fear she's functioning out of and not wanting to create a record, blah, 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 I guarantee that if we had the conversation with her, that would be exactly what her power person did to her. They'd be exactly the behaviors that went on. Precise to the T. And that's what the scriptures meant when they said, the sins of the fathers are passed, yea, unto 3 and 4 generations of those who hate me. There's God, love, saying those, and that word hate there in Aramaic is not hate in that passage as in a love-hate relationship. It's saying, God saying, those who are separated from the presence of my love are run by the sins of their fathers.
Yeah.
And it's not until I make that connected space of love more important than my goal that I can ever clean that up in my mind.
Yeah.
So we're clear on the punishment, and then punishment of self. So in this whole situation, is there any punishment that you hold toward self? Anything that you want to do to self here?
Oh, anything I want to do to myself. well, well, I have the disease thing that we've talked about. We did a paper,
right.
And
Worksheet on.
Worksheet, yeah, thanks. The worksheet on, and I get angry that of course, the anger is the drug, that I can't go up there because of the disease and help her, and I do get when things get really bad. Me dying would not be I would rather me die than my daughter.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
and dying is just another form of leaving, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the punishment towards self is to leave.
Okay. All right.
All right. So then number 2, now what I'm going to do, now that I'm conscious of all that and all that's moving in me, it's resonating in me, what I'm going to do is own and step into the space where I'm willing to work through this. So number 2, I'm willing to process all disease as I go through the physical, mental, and emotional symptoms of healing. So you just uncovered several aspects that result in your own physiological disease state: the anger, the fear, the dread, the grief, the hitting, the hurt, the abandonment, the yelling, the leaving. My offering is that's all part and parcel of what ultimately ends up killing us all, is our own dis-ease energies. And part of the healing process, and number 2 here, is I'm willing to embrace this. I'm willing to learn to stay connected to love, to this heart space, while I allow all of this energy to come forward, to be removed from me, to forgive from my structure. You know, we've got a Greek culture that's counseled us that forgiveness is something that we need to ask for. It's something that's going to be done to us. It's something that's going to be done for us. And that whole conversation is a lie. The conversation needs to be about, I'm ready to forgive this from my physiology. I'm ready to remove this and be done with it. What if you could think about your daughter's circumstance and situation today, and the only energy that you could even fathom moving in you was just to hold light and love around your daughter and see her well? How different would your life be? How different would your physiology be? And how different would the support space be for your daughter?
Yeah, it'd be great.
Okay. So then, are you willing to just really stay connected to love and embrace all of that that's moving for you?
Yes.
Good. Okay. So the next step then in going to the next level is to look at 3A, which is my desire. My desire, that is the constructive result, the exact goal that drives this whole pain process in me, is that I want number 1C, my former 2. So what specifically, and I think we've already got that one answered pretty clearly, what you want her to do is to get effective help for her.
Yeah.
Would that be accurate? Actually, it sounds like it would be to restore, because your daughter was working with someone that she likes, right? So it would be to restore.
Yeah.
Would that be more accurate?
That would be fine.
Okay. So to restore effective help for her.
Yes.
And for your daughter to be well.
Yes.
Okay. Good one. And then the second, this is a new piece that we put into this worksheet. That was number 1, 3A, and then 3B. So that I can. So when you think about that goal, what is it that would be your benefit if she were to restore effective help to your daughter and your daughter would be well? What would the so I can what? What would that be?
Be happy
Yeah, so I can be happy, I can be at peace.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you know, one of the thoughts that comes would be, you know, to be free of fear.
Yes, yes.
And of course, the fear, once again, isn't about your daughter's situation. The fear is about the content of your own mind, ease energy that you want to process out.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. So then you've got number 3 clearly. Then number 4, what changes the dynamics of things like hurt and hitting and abandonment and yelling and leaving and fear is when love is conscious, active, and present in us. So before we go into the core forgiveness step, in number 4, what I want to do is I want to drop into that heart space, that connected space. So number 4, I choose love, my essence, which stirs the love in everyone involved. So at this moment, you know, and it sounds like you're really conscious about all these other energetic dynamics. So can you go back to that deeply connected heart space right now and allow yourself to be aware of all those other energies that have been stirred up in you?
So can I be in my heart chakra, be my heart center of love, and be aware of also the dread, the fear, the anger?
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying?
The hurt,
okay, yes,
the abandonment, the yelling.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And, you know, as I said when we did the last worksheet we did, the thing that most powerfully takes me there is I think about my daughter literally being delivered into my hands at her birth, opening her eyes and looking at me and literally sending me into another universe.
Uh-huh.
Can you go back to the first time you held your daughter?
I'm looking at her picture on the wall right now of her on the beach in Naples, and so at like the age of 2, it's just so cute, and that always opens my heart chakra. Now
Yeah.
you're talking about something that I don't see on the worksheet, which is now be in your heart, and at the same time be conscious of the dread, fear, the yelling, the abandonment.
Yes.
What you're saying?
Well, that we're going to take that to the next level. Yes. When we get to the action step, that's coming.
Okay, fine, good.
But right now, at this stage, what I'm doing is I just want to make sure that I'm anchored in present love as I go into that next step.
Good. Yes, I'm good.
Because what we're going to do is we're going to take the step of collapsing the perceptions, the surface mind's perception of hurt and fear and dread and grief and anger and yelling and leaving. We're going to take the surface mind's construct based in that from inside of you, and we're going to collapse it. And here's how we're going to do it in step 5.
Okay.
And basically, this is kind of review of all of the principles involved. When upset, 5A, when upset, my perception, my mind's construct built out of corrupt data driven by my goal in number 3, that is my desire for to be restored, for her to be restored to effective health and be well, I'm going to cancel the goal that drives, that selects the data that produces that reality, that pain in me, my errant perception. When I cancel that, my errant perception collapses, and I get to drop into the parts of my mind hidden from me by my pretense that others are responsible for what I have created. Again, and then in brackets, if they're the one with the problem, why am I the one with the pain? Because that pain is in me. So the action step now, and the show's just about complete, so we'll have to finish this tomorrow. This will be a 2-part worksheet. So the action step, and I'd invite you to really focus on this between now and tomorrow, while holding love conscious, active, and present, I now choose to collapse my mind's lies by willingly canceling the goal, the driver, for my former to restore effective help to my daughter.
Okay.
Now, that sounds like a ridiculous thing to do, but remember that I'm never upset with people unless they're violating a goal I have. And as long as she is violating that goal, this hurt, this fear, this anger, this rage, that takes over your mind, and that's what blocks you from being able to stay in that heart space. And so how about between now and tomorrow, just work with and meditate on that, and we'll complete the worksheet tomorrow, because any second the show is going to cut us off. We've completed with our hour.
Okay. Okay.
Feels like we've made some real progress. How about you?
Yes, sir. Indeed. Thank you,
Awesome.
Michael, and appreciate it.
All right, we're with you 100%, my friend. Blessings. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world.